Daniel Carter wiped the sweat from his forehead as he pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway of Westfield Academy of Arts. The school was quiet now. All the rich kids had gone home in their fancy cars, and the teachers had left for the day. Only the sound of his squeaky cartwheels broke the silence. Daniel had worked as a janitor at Westfield for 15 years. His hands were rough and his back often hurt at the end of the day, but he took pride in keeping the school clean. The academy was one of the best art schools in the country. Kids whose parents had lots of money came here to learn music, painting, and other arts. Tonight, Daniel had to clean the main concert hall. A big event was happening tomorrow, the annual donor gala. Rich people would come to see the students perform and then give money to the school. Everything had to be perfect. He pushed his cart into the huge concert hall. The room was dark except for a few safety lights. Rows of empty seats faced the stage where a beautiful black piano sat in the center. It was a Steinway grand piano worth more money than Daniel would make in 10 years. Daniel began his work, dusting the seats and sweeping the floor. But as he cleaned near the stage, he kept looking at the piano. Its shiny surface seemed to call to him. No one was around. The security guard was on the other side of the building. Daniel would have at least 30 minutes before the guard made his rounds again. He put down his cleaning supplies and looked at his hands. They were clean. He always wore gloves when using cleaning chemicals. Slowly, he walked up the steps to the stage and approached the piano. Daniel sat down on the bench and took a deep breath. He hadn't touched a piano in years. Not since. He placed his fingers on the keys and began to play. The music that came out wasn't something he had learned. It just flowed from somewhere deep inside him. The notes were complex and beautiful, filling the empty hall with sounds that seemed almost not human. Time disappeared as Daniel played. He forgot about his job, his tiny apartment, and his struggles. In that moment, there was only the music. He didn't hear the door open at the back of the hall. He didn't notice the group of students who entered until a sharp voice cut through his playing. "What do you think you're doing?" Daniel's hands jumped off the keys. He turned to see Amelia Bennett standing at the edge of the stage with 3 of her friends. Amelia was the daughter of Gregory Bennett, one of the richest men in the country. She had long blonde hair, expensive clothes, and a face now twisted with anger. "I asked you a question," she said, walking onto the stage. "What are you doing touching my piano?" Daniel stood up quickly, backing away from the instrument. "I'm sorry, Miss Bennett, I was just—" "You were just what?" she interrupted. "Getting your dirty janitor hands all over the keys I need to use." "Tomorrow?" Her friends laughed. One of them, a boy in designer clothes, pulled out his phone and pointed it at Daniel. "This is going on my social," the boy said, recording the scene. Daniel's face burned with shame. "The piano isn't hurt. I was careful." Amelia looked at him like he was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. "Do you have any idea how expensive this piano is? My father donated it to the school specifically for my use." "I didn't mean any harm," Daniel said quietly. "Well, you've done harm," Amelia said. "Now I'll have to have it cleaned and tuned again before tomorrow. Do you know how much that costs?" Her friends moved closer, all rich kids who had never had to work a day in their lives. They looked at Daniel like he was an interesting bug they might want to squash. "What were you even playing?" asked a girl with red hair. It sounded so weird. "Probably the only 3 notes he knows," Amelia said, making her friends laugh again. Daniel reached for his cleaning cloth. "I'll clean it right away." "Don't touch it again," Amelia shouted. "You'll just make it worse. Just get out of here." "We need to practice, and we don't need an audience, especially the cleaning staff." The boy was still recording. "This is great. Janitor thinks he's a pianist. My followers will love this." Daniel nodded and walked back to his cart. He could feel their eyes on his back, could hear their whispers and giggles. 15 years at this school, and this was how they saw him, just the invisible man who cleaned up their messes. "Make sure you finish the rest of your work," Amelia called after him. "The hall needs to be spotless for tomorrow." Daniel pushed, his cart toward the exit, his eyes on the floor. What had he been thinking? People like him didn't get to play pianos like that. He had forgotten his place. and now he had been reminded of it in the most painful way. What he didn't know was that the boy recording hadn't just taken a video. He had accidentally started a live stream that was already being watched by hundreds of people. And those people weren't laughing at Daniel. They were amazed by what they had heard in those brief moments before he was interrupted. As Daniel left the hall, Amelia sat down at the piano and wiped the keys with a tissue from her purse. "Gross," she said. "Now let me show you how this is really supposed to sound." She began to play a classical piece she had been practicing for weeks. It was perfectly correct, every note in the right place. But somehow, it didn't fill the room, the way Daniel's music had. It didn't reach into the soul and pull at something ancient and unknown. Outside in the hallway, Daniel went back to his cleaning, trying to forget what had happened. Tomorrow was the big gala. Important people would be there, including Amelia's father. Daniel would need to be invisible, efficient, and silent. Everything a good janitor should be. He didn't know that by tomorrow night, everyone at Westfield Academy would know his name. He didn't know that his life was about to change forever. And he certainly didn't know that the strange music in his head, the music he'd heard since childhood, was about to become the most important sound on earth. The next morning, Daniel woke up early in his small apartment. His back hurt from mopping floors the night before, but he had no time to rest. The donor gala was tonight, and he needed to make sure everything was perfect. He made a quick cup of coffee and checked his old phone. There were 15 missed calls from a number he didn't know. Strange. Nobody ever called him except his sister once a month. He ignored the calls and got ready for work. When Daniel arrived at Westfield Academy, something felt different. The security guard at the gate looked at him funny, and a group of students whispered as he walked by. Had word spread about him touching the piano? Would he lose his job? He went to the janitor's office to get his cleaning supplies. His boss, Frank, was waiting for him. "Daniel, where have you been?" Frank asked. "People have been looking for you." Daniel's heart sank. "I was just playing the piano. I didn't damage it." Frank looked confused. "What are you talking about? Haven't you seen the video?" "Video?" Daniel asked. Frank pulled out his phone and showed him. The screen showed Daniel playing the piano last night. The video had over 5 million views. The comments were filled with people asking who he was and where they could hear more of his music. "I don't understand," Daniel said. "How did this happen?" "That rich kid was live streaming when he recorded you," Frank explained. "It went viral overnight. Music people are saying your playing is something special." Daniel stared at the phone. This couldn't be happening. He had kept his music private for so long, it was too strange, too different. People wouldn't understand. "The principal wants to see you," Frank said. "Now." Daniel walked to the principal's office, his mind racing. Would he be fired for touching school property? Would he be made fun of because of the video? When he reached the office, he was surprised to see several important-looking people waiting inside. The principal, Mrs. Johnson, looked nervous. "Ah, Mr. Carter," she said when she saw him. "Please come in, these people want to talk to you." A woman in an expensive suit stepped forward. "Mr. Carter, I'm Lisa Warren from BNN News. We'd like to interview you about your remarkable talent." Before Daniel could answer, another person spoke up. "I'm John Miller from Capitol Records. We'd be interested in discussing a recording contract." Daniel felt like he was dreaming. "There must be a mistake. I'm just a janitor." "A janitor who plays like no one we've ever heard," Lisa said. "The video has experts talking. Your music doesn't follow normal patterns, yet it's deeply moving." The principal cleared her throat. "Mr. Carter, I had no idea you had such talent. Why didn't you ever say anything?" Daniel looked down at his hands. "It never seemed important, it's just something I do sometimes." "Well, it's important now," Mrs. Johnson said. "The gala is tonight, and Mr. Bennett himself has called asking about you." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Mr. Bennett, Amelia's father?" "Yes," Mrs. Johnson nodded. "He'll be here this afternoon and wants to meet you personally." The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Daniel tried to do his regular cleaning duties, but people kept stopping him in the halls. Students who had never noticed him before now wanted selfies. Teachers who had walked past him for years suddenly wanted to chat. By lunchtime, camera crews had set up outside the school. Reporters were asking students about the janitor pianist. Some students told stories about how they had always been nice to Daniel. Others made up tales about how they had discovered his talent years ago. Daniel hid in a supply closet, eating his sandwich alone. He didn't want attention. He just wanted to play his music in peace the way he had for years at home on his old keyboard. Around 2 o'clock, a fleet of black cars pulled up to the school. Gregory Bennett had arrived. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. He walked like someone used to giving orders and having them obeyed. Mrs. Johnson rushed to meet him. "Mr. Bennett, welcome to Westfield. We're so honored to have you here early." Bennett nodded. "Where is he? Where's the janitor?" "We're looking for him now, sir," Mrs. Johnson said. Daniel watched from a window as more cars arrived. People in suits, carrying equipment. Scientists? Researchers? He couldn't tell. But they all looked serious, and they were all here because of him. He thought about running away. He could leave his cart and go out the back door. Find a new job somewhere no one knew his name. But where would he go? Before he could decide, the door to his hiding place opened. Amelia Bennett stood there, looking very different from the night before. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide that she had been crying. "You," she said quietly. "Everyone's looking for you." Daniel stood up. "I'm sorry about the piano. I didn't mean to cause trouble." Amelia shook her head. "You don't understand. My father, he's not angry, he's excited. He says your music is important. Really important." "I don't understand," Daniel said. "Neither do I," Amelia admitted. "But he made me come find you. To apologize." The words seemed to pain her. "I'm sorry for how I acted last night. I was cruel." Daniel looked at her, surprised. Rich people like the Bennetts didn't apologize to people like him. "It's okay," Daniel said. "You were right. It wasn't my piano to touch." "No," Amelia said. "I was wrong. And now my father wants to see you. Right away." She led him through the school to the concert hall. Inside, the space had been transformed for the evening's gala. Flowers and lights made everything look magical. On the stage, Gregory Bennett was examining the piano while talking to a group of serious-looking people. When Bennett saw Daniel, he stopped mid-sentence and stared. "Mr. Carter," he said. "Finally." Daniel walked toward the stage, aware of everyone watching him. He felt small in his janitor uniform. "Mr. Bennett," Daniel nodded. "I hear you wanted to see me." "Yes," Bennett said. "I need you to play for me. The same music you played last night." "Now?" Daniel asked. "Right now," Bennett confirmed. "It's extremely important." Daniel looked around at all the expectant faces. He had never played for an audience before last night. And now all these important people wanted to hear him. "May I ask why?" Daniel said. Bennett looked at the people around him, then back at Daniel. "Because, Mr. Carter, I believe you may have just solved a puzzle my company has been working on for years. A puzzle worth billions of dollars. A puzzle that might change everything we know about our place in the universe." Daniel felt his heart beating faster. "I don't understand." "Play," Bennett said, gesturing to the piano. "And then I'll explain everything." Daniel sat down at the piano with all eyes in the room on him. His hands were shaking. Playing alone in an empty room was one thing. Playing in front of Gregory Bennett and a group of scientists was something else entirely. He placed his fingers on the keys and closed his eyes. He needed to find that space in his mind where the music lived. He had been hearing these strange melodies since he was a child. His mother had called it his special music before she died. No teacher had ever been able to explain where it came from or why it sounded so different from normal songs. Daniel took a deep breath and began to play. The notes flowed from his fingers just like they had the night before. The melody started, simple but grew more complex. It didn't follow the rules of normal music. Sometimes it seemed to have patterns, then it would change into something completely new. As he played, He forgot about the people watching. He forgot about being a janitor. He forgot about Amelia's cruel words. There was only the music. When he finished, he opened his eyes. The room was completely silent. Gregory Bennett was staring at him with a look of wonder. Some of the scientists were typing rapidly on laptops. Others were whispering to each other with excited faces. Amelia stood to the side, her mouth slightly open in surprise. Bennett was the first to speak. Incredible, simply incredible. Mr. Carter, do you have any formal music training? Daniel shook his head. No, sir. I taught myself on an old keyboard. And this music you play, Bennett continued. Where does it come from? Did someone teach it to you? No, Daniel said. It's just always been in my head, since I was little. One of the scientists stepped forward. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and glasses. Mr. Bennett, the pattern matches our third sequence with 98% accuracy. It's beyond coincidence. Bennett nodded. Mr. Carter, I need to explain something to you and everyone here. He turned to address the growing crowd in the concert hall. More students and teachers had come in to see what was happening. 3 years ago, my company, Bennett Quantum Technologies, detected a signal from deep space. It wasn't random noise, it had patterns. Mathematical patterns that repeated in ways that suggested intelligence. The crowd began to whisper. Was Bennett saying what they thought he was saying? We believed it might be a form of communication from another civilization. Bennett continued. But we couldn't figure out how to understand it or respond to it. Our best scientists and mathematicians have been working day and night to decode the message. He pointed at Daniel. What Mr. Carter just played is almost exactly the same as one of the signal patterns we received. The same mathematical sequence, but translated into music. Daniel felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. Are you saying, he asked slowly, that I'm playing alien music? Bennett nodded. That's exactly what I'm saying. Somehow, you can hear and reproduce these complex mathematical sequences naturally. You're doing what our supercomputers have been struggling with for years. Amelia stepped forward. Dad, if what you're saying is true, how can he hear these signals? How is that possible? The female scientist spoke up. We don't know yet. Perhaps Mr. Carter has a unique neurological structure. Some humans can see colors, others can't. Some can hear sounds beyond normal range. Mr. Carter might be able to perceive these mathematical patterns as music. Daniel shook his head. This is crazy. I'm just a janitor who likes to play music. No, Bennett said firmly. You're much more than that. You might be the key to humanity's first contact with another intelligent species. The room erupted in excited talk. Students were filming everything on their phones. Teachers were asking questions all at once. The principal looked like she might faint. Bennett raised his hands for quiet. We need to run some tests. With your permission, Mr. Carter, I'd like my team to record more of your playing and compare it to our signal database. Daniel nodded slowly. This was all happening so fast. Yesterday he was just a janitor that nobody noticed. Today he was at the center of possibly the biggest discovery in human history. What does the signal mean? Daniel asked. The alien message. What does it say? We don't know yet, Bennett admitted. We think it might be an invitation or instructions, or maybe just a hello from across the stars. With your help, we might finally find out. One of the scientists set up recording equipment near the piano. Another brought over a laptop with strange graphs on the screen. I'd like you to play again, Bennett said. But this time, I want to show you something first. He motioned to a scientist who projected a series of wavy lines onto a screen. This is a visual representation of one of the signals we received. Just look at it for a moment. Daniel studied the lines. They seemed to move and pulse, almost like they were alive. Something about them seemed familiar, like a song he had heard long ago but couldn't quite remember. Now, Bennett said, close your eyes and tell me if any music comes to mind. Daniel closed his eyes. At first, there was nothing. Then, faintly, he began to hear a new melody in his head. It was related to the one he had played before, but different, more complex, more urgent. Without opening his eyes, he began to play, His fingers found the keys perfectly, translating the sounds in his mind into music that filled the hall. This piece was faster, with strange pauses and sudden changes that shouldn't have sounded good together but somehow did. When he finished and opened his eyes, the scientists were staring at their equipment in shock. 100% match, the female scientist said. He just played the fourth sequence perfectly. We've been trying to decode that one for months. Gregory Bennett looked at Daniel with new respect. Mr. Carter, I'd like to offer you a job, starting immediately, with a salary that will make your current one look like pocket change. Daniel blinked in surprise. What would I do? Help us communicate with whatever intelligence sent these signals, Bennett said. We need to understand what they're saying, and you seem to be the only person on Earth who can hear them clearly. Before Daniel could answer, the doors at the back of the hall burst open. A group of men and women in dark suits walked in. They looked official and serious. Mr. Bennett, one of them said. I'm Agent Wilson with National Security. We need to speak with you and Mr. Carter immediately. Bennett frowned. I was wondering how long it would take you to show up. Agent Wilson looked at Daniel. Sir, what you're doing here has serious national security implications. We need to continue this conversation in private. Daniel looked at Bennett, then at Amelia, whose face showed a mix of awe and worry. His simple life as a janitor was over. Whatever happened next would change everything. Okay, Daniel said quietly. I'll help. I'll do whatever I can. Daniel sat in a large conference room at Westfield Academy. The donor gala had been postponed. Now the room was filled with important people in suits. There were scientists, government agents, and military officers. Gregory Bennett sat at the head of the table, looking calm while everyone around him argued. This is a matter of national security, Agent Wilson said firmly. Mr. Carter needs to come with us to a secure facility. My company discovered the signal, Bennett countered. We have the best equipment and team to work with Mr. Carter. Daniel felt lost in all this talk. Just 2 days ago, he had been mopping floors and emptying trash cans. Now these powerful people were fighting over him like he was some kind of prize. A general with many medals on his chest pounded the table. What if this is the first step of an invasion? We need to control this situation. It's not an invasion, said Dr. Patel, one of Bennett's scientists. The signals have been coming for 3 years with no hostile action. They're trying to communicate, not attack. Daniel watched as they argued back and forth. No one seemed to care what he thought. He was just the janitor who could somehow hear alien music. The door opened, and Amelia Bennett walked in. She looked nervous, but determined. All the adults stopped, talking, and stared at her. You shouldn't be here, her father said. This is a closed meeting. I know, Amelia said, but has anyone asked Daniel what he wants to do? Everyone's making plans for him, but no one is listening to him. All eyes turned to Daniel. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He wasn't used to being the center of attention. I just want to understand what's happening to me, Daniel said quietly. I've been hearing this music my whole life. I thought I was just different, maybe a little weird. I never thought it meant anything. Dr. Patel leaned forward. Have the melodies changed over time? Have they gotten more complex? Daniel nodded. Yes. When I was a kid, they were simple. As I got older, they got more complicated. New patterns kept appearing. That's consistent with a progressive communication attempt, Dr. Patel said excitedly. They might be building complexity as they gauge our understanding. Agent Wilson frowned. Or they're sending more detailed instructions for something we won't like. I don't think so, Daniel said. The words came out before he could stop them. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Why do you say that? Bennett asked. Daniel struggled to explain. The music doesn't feel threatening. It feels curious, like questions, not commands, like someone reaching out to say hello. You can feel emotions in the signals? Dr. Patel asked, amazed. Sort of, Daniel replied. It's hard to explain, but they don't feel dangerous. The general snorted. We're basing national security on how the janitor feels about some piano tunes? Bennett glared at him. Show some respect. Mr. Carter is the only person who can translate these signals. That makes him the most important person in this room. A new voice spoke from the doorway. I agree. Everyone turned to see a tall woman enter. She had white hair and carried herself with authority. The agents and military officers immediately stood straighter. Madam President, Agent Wilson said in surprise. Daniel's mouth fell open. The President of the United States had come to Westfield Academy because of him. Please continue your meeting, the President said, taking a seat. I've been briefed on the situation. Mr. Carter, it's an honor to meet you. Daniel could only nod. This was too much. I've decided how we're going to handle this, the President announced. Mr. Bennett's company will lead the research, with government oversight. We'll set up a joint operation here at the school. It's where Mr. Carter is comfortable, and disrupting his environment might affect his abilities. She looked directly at Daniel. That is, if you agree, Mr. Carter. Your cooperation is requested, not ordered. You'll be well compensated, of course. Daniel thought for a moment. I want to help, but I don't want to be locked away somewhere. I want to keep living my normal life as much as possible. Agreed, the President said. Now I understand there's a piano on stage. Perhaps you could demonstrate your ability. The meeting moved to the concert hall. Daniel sat at the piano again, but this time the hall was filled with government officials, scientists, and Secret Service agents. Amelia and a few other students had been allowed to stay at Bennett's insistence. Play something new, Dr. Patel suggested. Something you've never played before. Daniel closed his eyes and listened to the music in his head. There was a new melody, forming more complex than anything he'd heard before. He began to play. The music filled the hall, rising and falling in strange patterns. It didn't follow Earth music rules. It jumped between notes that shouldn't sound good together, but somehow created something beautiful and alien. As he played, the scientists watched their equipment with amazement. One screen showed the music pattern matching a signal they had received just hours earlier. It's happening in real time, Dr. Patel whispered. He's translating the current transmission. When Daniel finished, the hall was silent. Then the President stood and began to clap. Everyone joined in, the applause thundering through the room. What do you think they're saying? Bennett asked Dr. Patel. I don't know, she replied. But the pattern is more structured than ever before. They might be responding to him. To me? Daniel asked. How is that possible? Dr. Patel looked excited. The live stream from last night, it was shared millions of times. Television stations picked it up. Satellites broadcast it. Your music went into space. And they heard it? Daniel couldn't believe it. It's possible, Bennett said. If they've been monitoring our communications, looking for a response to their signals. The President stepped forward. Mr. Carter, would you be willing to play again? This time, try to create something new. Not just repeating what you hear, but responding to it. Daniel nodded slowly. I can try. He turned back to the piano and thought about what he wanted to say to whoever was out there among the stars. He wanted to tell them that humanity was listening, that we were curious too, that we wanted to be friends. He began to play a new melody, one that came not from the signals in his head, but from his own heart. It was simpler than the alien music, but had elements of it mixed with human music styles. As he played, the scientist gasped. The signal pattern is changing, Dr. Patel said. It's adapting to match elements of his new composition. Bennett looked amazed. They're learning from him as he learns from them. Two-way communication, the President said quietly. For the first time in human history. Amelia watched from the side of the stage, her earlier arrogance completely gone. The janitor she had mocked was now the most important person on the planet. As Daniel played the final notes, a new feeling came over him. For the first time in his life, the strange music in his head made sense. He wasn't weird or different. He was a bridge between worlds, I think, Daniel said as he finished playing. They're saying hello back. 6 months passed since the night Daniel Carter played the piano and changed human history. Westfield Academy had been transformed. The concert hall was now the center of the most important scientific project on Earth. Huge satellite dishes pointed at the sky from the school roof. Scientists from around the world worked in new buildings on the campus. Daniel lived in a nice apartment near the school now. He had money for the first time in his life. His picture had been on the cover of Time magazine. Children dressed as him for Halloween, carrying toy pianos. Everyone knew his name, but fame wasn't easy. Some days, he missed his simple life as a janitor. Back then, no one watched his every move. No one expected him to save the world. He could clean floors and go home to his quiet apartment without reporters taking his picture. Today was a big day. After months of back-and-forth music, between Daniel and the aliens, the scientists thought they finally understood enough to send a clear message and receive one back. The president was coming again for the historic event. Daniel sat alone in a small room, trying to stay calm. The door opened, and Amelia Bennett walked in. "Are you ready?" she asked. In the months since that first night, Amelia had changed. Gone was the mean rich girl who looked down on the cleaning staff. She had apologized many times for how she treated Daniel. Now she worked with her father's team, helping Daniel practice his music. "I'm nervous," Daniel admitted. "What if I make a mistake? What if I play the wrong notes and accidentally start an alien war?" Amelia smiled. "The scientists say the aliens are peaceful. They've been trying to talk to us for years. They wouldn't get mad over a few wrong notes." "I hope you're right," Daniel said. "It's a lot of pressure." "You'll do great," Amelia said. "You always do." They walked together to the concert hall. The room was packed with important people. The president sat in the front row next to Gregory Bennett. TV cameras were set up to broadcast the event worldwide. Dr. Patel met them at the door. "We're ready." "When you are, Daniel. The signal is coming in clearly today." Daniel took his place at the piano. Over the months, the scientist had built special equipment around it. Screens showed colorful patterns that matched his music. One machine translated the music into mathematical formulas. Another sent his playing directly to the giant satellite dishes. Gregory Bennett stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, today marks a historic moment in human history. After months of work, we believe we can now send a specific message to our new friends in the stars. Daniel will play a special composition that asks 5 simple questions. Who are you? Where are you from? How many are you? Are you like us? Do you come in peace?" The room was silent as Daniel placed his hands on the piano keys. He had practiced this piece 100 times. The scientists had helped him create music that they believed would translate their questions in a way the aliens would understand. He began to play. The melody was unlike anything heard on Earth before him. It mixed alien patterns with human music theory. As his fingers moved across the keys, the screens around him showed the message being sent into space. When he finished, everyone held their breath. Now came the hard part. Waiting for an answer. Minutes passed. The room was completely silent. Daniel kept his hands above the keys, ready to translate any response that came. Suddenly the screens lit up. A new signal was coming in, stronger than any before. "They're responding," Dr. Patel said excitedly. Daniel closed his eyes and listened to the music forming in his mind. It was complex but clearer than ever before. He began to play what he heard. The scientists watched their equipment with wide eyes as the alien message came through Daniel's fingers. When he finished, Dr. Patel turned to the audience with tears in her eyes. "We've translated the response." They answered all 5 questions. The president stood up. "What did they say?" Dr. Patel read from her screen. "They call themselves the Harmonics. They come from a star system 40 light years away. They are a civilization of billions. They are not physically like us. They describe themselves as beings of light and sound. And yes, they come in peace. They say they have been watching Earth for centuries, hoping we would evolve enough to hear their music." The room erupted in cheers and applause. Daniel sat at the piano, trying to understand what he had just helped accomplish. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. In the weeks that followed, Daniel continued to serve as the translator between Earth and the Harmonics. Each day the aliens shared more knowledge. They taught humans about new energy sources, advanced medicine, and technologies beyond anything Earth scientists had imagined. One afternoon, Daniel sat with Amelia in the school garden. Workers were building a new research center nearby where the tennis courts used to be. "Did you ever think your life would turn out like this?" Amelia asked. Daniel shook his head. "Never. I was just a janitor. I cleaned floors and fixed broken things. And now you fixed the biggest broken thing of all," Amelia said. "The silence between us and the rest of the universe." Daniel looked up at the sky. "The harmonics say there are many other civilizations out there. Some use different methods to communicate. Some we might never understand, but at least we're not alone anymore. All because you decided to play a piano you weren't supposed to touch," Amelia said with a smile. "And all because I was mean enough to record it." "Life is strange," Daniel agreed. The next day was the one-year anniversary of the night Daniel first played the piano at Westfield. The school held a special concert to celebrate. The hall was filled with world leaders, scientists, and celebrities. When it was time, Daniel and Amelia walked onto the stage together. They sat at two pianos side by side. Amelia had been learning to play the alien melodies too, though she couldn't hear them in her head like Daniel could. "Ready?" Daniel asked. Amelia nodded. They began to play together. The music they created was unlike anything ever heard on Earth before. A perfect blend of human emotion and alien mathematics. It filled the hall with sounds that seemed to come from the stars themselves. As they played, the satellite dishes picked up a new signal. The harmonics were joining the concert from 40 light-years away, adding their own music to the performance. For the first time, 3 different kinds of music, human, alien, and the new blend that Daniel had created, played together in perfect harmony. In the audience, Gregory Bennett wiped away a tear. The president smiled. Dr. Patel watched her screens in wonder as the music patterns danced across them. Daniel caught Amelia's eye as they played. She smiled at him. Who would have thought that a janitor and a rich girl would end up here, playing music with aliens? When the concert ended, the applause lasted for nearly 10 minutes. Daniel stood and took a bow. 1 year ago, he had been invisible. Today, he was the bridge between worlds. As he left the stage, he knew his life would never be simple again. But he was okay with that. The music in his head made sense now. It had a purpose. It connected Earth to the stars, and that was worth all the fame and pressure in the world.